makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part.
Novak Djokovic, the number one ranked tennis player in the world, is currently embroiled in an anti-vax saga after he was detained in an Australian airport previous to his participation in the Australian Open. Now, this event has had numerous twists. First of all, being that a court uh, reverted the decision by immigration authorities to not allow him to enter. Now, the reasons why the court made these decisions really have nothing to do with his with the vaccination status itself. Apparently, he asked for an exemption on medical grounds, which is strange. But yeah, so the reason why it was really kind of a technicality why the court reversed that decision. So yeah, uh, Djokovic's lawyers argued a range of legal errors, 7 different grounds, in fact, including invalid exercise of power. But ultimately, they won on the common law principles of procedural fairness and legal unreasonableness. So again, this had nothing to do with them saying, "Oh, actually, he is unvaccinated, but still has the right to go into the country." Now, I don't know exactly what his current status is. I read somewhere that he's sort of like being allowed to train, but under the watch of immigration authorities. So he's not like freely in the country as it is. And there's still a lot of people who think he should be kicked out. But this was so. First of all, there is the big irony that he was allowed this technicality to go through when a lot of people who emigrate to Australia don't have that luxury. Immigrating to Australia is Australia is one of the most difficult countries to emigrate to right now. They have one of the strictest immigration laws, and people who try and come to the country and ask for asylum or immigration or whatever, they are often detained in islands outside of Australia in very terrible conditions for long periods of time while their claims are processed. And as this chart from which I saw on Novara Media shows, Djokovic has spent 5 days in detention, whereas the average of undocumented people going into Australia is more than almost 2 years, which is absolutely shocking. And again, these are terrible conditions that they are in. It's really one of the cruelest immigration systems on the planet right now. Despite the fact that every Australian that you see on Tinder and Hinge brags about how many countries they've lived in the last year. So complete double standard that Westerners have in terms of other people coming to your countries, whereas they can, be geo-fluid. That's the latest term, and live in whatever developing country that they want. But anyway, rant over. He has had numerous supporters do like protest outside his hotel. I saw this and I thought it was funny because I wonder if these are Serbian fans who went all the way to Australia to see him compete, or they're Serbians living in Australia, or they are Australians dressed up as Serbs. I don't know, and I really would want to know. I tend to think it's one of the first two, but yeah, this was the scene outside his hotel. Now, the scandal got a bit more intense later because it was subsequently revealed that one of the reasons that the medical exemption that Djokovic had alleged is that he already has immunity because he got COVID in December. So now, a lot of the vaccine passports in, for example, the EU has an exemption for people who have had COVID in the last 6 months. So if you can prove that you had COVID within the last 6 months, you're not required to have a vaccine. Personally, I think I am okay with that. I think the evidence shows that immunity to COVID from either the vaccine or a natural infection kind of lasts around that long. So yeah, if you immediately had COVID, a couple of weeks ago or a month or two ago, I I I refer to the medical evidence that suggests that you might not need a vaccine at the time. Although apparently there is no problem whatsoever in you getting a vaccine, regardless of whether you had an infection before. And in fact, being vaccinated and catching the virus gives you even more immunity. So why wouldn't you want a vaccine? But anyway, that was his excuse. But then, as it turns out, uh, the dates of his supposed COVID contagion coincided with him having numerous public events, which at least one of them he went to despite knowing that he had COVID. So he admitted to this himself in a statement that he went to a children's award event on the day that he was announced that he had a positive PCR test. And after that, he did a photo shoot and interview with L'Equipe, a sports magazine. And the L'Equipe interview happened despite he having received the PCR test results beforehand. So he admits that he went to that photo shoot knowing that he had COVID. Yeah. And this is, he made a statement apparently apologizing for all of this. And the reason that he gave is he went to the L'Equipe interview because he didn't want to let the journalist down. Just imagine that. You're a, multimillionaire, global sports celebrity, and I just, I carried a virus during a deadly pandemic because I didn't want to disappoint a journalist. Come on, this is just bullshit. He's full of shit, I should add, because also there were the reasons why he was detained in Australia originally also had to do with errors in his immigration declaration, in his not immigration, his declaration upon entering Australia, when he failed to disclose that he had traveled to another country beforehand, and he subsequently attributed this to an error by his agent. Whether it was deliberate or not, I don't know, but other people don't get that benefit. You don't make if you make a mistake on an immigration statement into any country that you visit that requires such a statement or requires a visa, you're fucked. You don't get the benefit of the doubt, like, oh, it was an innocent mistake. No, they will assume that you did it deliberately. But apparently, since he is the number one ranked tennis player, he will get a pass. Now, why am I making a video of this? Well, really because for me, it's not the scandal involving Djokovic that bothers me so much. It's really the idea that, on the whole, anti-vaxxers are assholes. Okay? And I'm going to say this. I don't care who this offends. Anti-vaxxers, on the whole, are really just self-interested, individualist assholes. And they don't care at all about their contribution to worsening the pandemic. It's all about me, 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 me. It's all about my freedoms, my liberties. I should be able to do 100% of what I can do before the pandemic. And any tiny restriction is the end of Western civilization. It's the end. We're living in a despotic autocracy in Western countries that have no recent modern history of despotism whatsoever. This has been the argument of every single anti-vaxxer that I have encountered since the pandemic began. And remember, the anti-vaxxers are the people who a year earlier were the anti-mask people and the anti-lockdown people. And they just evolve. And then now they evolve into the anti-mandate crowd. But it's the same people. It's the same people. They just, whatever the issue is, with them not having to play their part in this pandemic, that is what they will rile against, because they just cannot imagine a situation in which they have to make any kind of sacrifice, even the most minimal one, like wearing a fucking mask, for the benefit of society, because they don't care about society. They only care about themselves. And that's why I completely agree with Macron, the president of France, who a couple of days ago made some statements that pissed off a lot of anti-vaxxers and anti-vax sympathizers. Because remember, there's a lot of people who don't claim that they are anti-vaxxers, but they seem to have a lot of sympathy for them. And Macron basically said that he wanted to make life as difficult as possible for people who remain unvaccinated, by limiting access to key aspects of life, going to restaurants, going to nightclubs, whatever. And you know what? I fucking agree with him 100%. Fuck these people. Fuck them. Because they have basically attempted to derail any effort to have a coherent societal response to a global pandemic from the very start. These are fucking narcissists, petty fucking narcissists, who do not care about society, who are incapable of conceiving of the idea of a society. Because for them, life in a Western country is all about them. It's all about their freedoms, their unlimited freedoms, their unlimited liberties, and zero concern about anyone else. These are the people who protest outside hospitals, who have attacked teachers, who have attacked hospital workers, nurses. These are people who spit on other people's faces. They don't care. There are people who are abusive. They're just the scum of society. And yes, I completely, there's also the incident in Quebec, which Quebec has stated that they are thinking of adding a tax on unvaccinated people. There's been people in the US who have floated the idea of having anti-vaxxers to pay for certain medical bills or whatever, pay extra. I am 100% in favor of all of this. Fuck them. Really, fuck them. Because you cannot have a cohesive society when a significant amount of it just has no interest in being a part of it. I'm sorry, if you want to live in this 100% free environment, then go live in a freaking shack in the middle of the mountains where you're not around people. And you can start your own nightclub right there. But don't ruin it for the rest of us. Don't ruin it for the people who are actually concerned about how their behavior can impact others, can even cause other people to die. But they don't care about this. Because God forbid they put a mask in the 15 minutes it takes to go buy a drink in a restaurant. In a supermarket. Or, observe basic social distancing rules. These people don't care. So, yeah. Totally in favor of making life as difficult as possible for them. Totally in favor of them being separated from society until they take the basic precautions. I'm sorry. And when it comes to vaccine mandates, we have vaccine mandates for a lot of things. For every other vaccine, there is some kind of mandate. And no one has complained until now. So don't give me this bullshit that these experimental vaccines are like some violation of your body's holiness. Come on, give me a friggin' break. The cases of, for example, U.S. Armed Forces personnel who are willing to be discharged because they don't want to take the COVID vaccine, despite the requirement of everyone joining the armed forces to take God knows how many, like a dozen different vaccines. But this is just brainwashing. This is just pure brainwashing from all the shit that you see on social media and from other dipshits like them. So yeah, totally in favor. I stand by these words. This is a hill that I am happy to die on. And anyone who disagrees, feel free to comment. And on that note, if you like this video, please like, please share. Most importantly, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. you.